Thank you, everybody, for taking time out of your day to join us for our latest Entuity Tech Talk, focus on database monitoring in action. If at all you have any questions throughout today's Tech Talk that you'd like to ask our team, feel free to drop those in the Q&A section of the Microsoft Teams webinar chat. I just dropped an initial post in there so you know where to go to ask any questions that you have for our team. So we'll go ahead and get started. Again, our topic today is database monitoring in action. The latest patch for Entuity version 22, patch 8. Database monitoring is a new feature within Entuity, and I'm joined today by Larry Balon and James Denneman from our Entuity Solutions Architect team, as well as Isabella Russo from our product operations team. So thank you three for joining me today. These three are going to be the ones that are going to walk us through this new feature and functionality within Entuity. And with that, I'll turn it over to you, Isabella, to get the ball rolling.
Thanks, John. So in today's agenda for the webinar, we're going to be doing a little introduction to database monitoring, going over the health and performance WC on databases, resource monitoring, customizable thresholds and incidents, and then monitoring visibility and Entuity for those, and then some monitoring tips and tricks on databases. So database monitoring in Entuity came out in v22 patch 8, like John had mentioned. Some of the supported databases are Microsoft SQL, MariaDB, MySQL, and Oracle standalone databases. And then we have plans to add support for Postgres and MongoDB in the next iteration. John's going to be sending out a poll asking which database types you currently have in your environment from our supported list, or ones that we have in plan, as well as another category in case it's not one of the listed options. Some of the objects that are monitored with the new database monitoring feature are the database instances, schemas or table spaces, engines, and database jobs. And there's also documentation available on the Entuity Knowledge Center that details the monitored objects, performance metrics gathered on them, as well as instructions for adding databases under management for each of those different database types. So Entuity monitors the health and availability and responsiveness of databases, ensuring your business critical data systems are always up and accessible. This is done by pulling for the database status as well as some other availability stats like connection usage and error rates, block contention rates, and database uptime. Other key performance metrics that are gathered on the top level database instances and on the schemas include things like I/O and query latency, query rate, and throughput. And then Larry, do you want to walk us through adding databases to management and how those performance metrics look like?
Yep. Thanks, Isabella. Good morning, everybody. My name is Larry Balon. I'm a solution architect with Park Place. And I'm just going to quickly go and share out my browser and talk a little bit at a high level about the database monitoring feature. So again, as Isabella mentioned, the feature was the feature for database management was added in version 22 patch 8. So the place where you would go to add any databases that you want to monitor would be the Entuity administration page. So there's a selection at the bottom of the second column here labeled database management. And if you click that, that will hyperlink to the database application management page where you can add databases. For the purposes of our demo, we've added the 4 different database types that we support. So there's we've got Oracle, we've got Microsoft SQL Server. I have a standard MySQL database server, and then this top one that's listed here as MySQL. Entuity actually uses MariaDB underneath the covers, which is basically functionally equivalent to MySQL. So we've added that as well. In order to add a database, you simply click here and you assign a display name, a host name that we're going to use, a connection port. If it is using the default port, for example, for MySQL, it's 3306. You don't need to put the port number in here. And then you select the database type. either MySQL, Oracle, or Microsoft SQL Server, and then a connection method, and you provide credentials. We do have a pretty extensive help center area for database monitoring, and I'll just bring that up really quickly. There's a section labeled Guidance for Monitoring Databases, and this goes into a lot of the information that you may need to connect to the database from the Entuity server. Again, I'm gonna come into the next one. I'm gonna come into is called the database view. So I've basically created a view on my Entuity server that contains all the databases that I'm monitoring, and there's a specific dashboard that ships with the that's part of the patch. So this dashboard's available through the All Dashboards overflow menu. And that will basically give me some information on the status of the monitored databases. There's a pie chart here that indicates the breakdown of the database types that I'm monitoring. And then there are a fairly large number of incident types that we've added for database monitoring. This just indicates in a pie chart format the breakdown of the open incidents and what they are. For the instances, for the table itself, we're just going to provide basic information about the databases, the display name, the type, the path to the database, version information, and then system version information if it's available. If I want to take a deeper dive and look at a specific database type, I can, for example, go here to Microsoft SQL Server. So I can hyperlink directly from here. If I do that, that's going to bring up this basic summary page. So there's some key information. There's a key information panel. There's a list of schemas that we're monitoring. And again, the number of open incidents is shown here. And then there's approximately 7 different metrics that we monitor at the top level here. So things like I/O latency are mapped out here and tracked. For Microsoft SQL Server, it's going to be the query rate. For other database types other than SQL Server, we're gonna display the query latency. So that's the main difference between these two database types is what we're monitoring on this landing page. We monitor the lock contention rate, the buffer cache hit ratios, throughput on the database, and then we also provide some additional metrics on allocated memory size and space allocation for the databases. We do poll these performance metrics at the standard Entuity polling interval, which is at 5-minute intervals. The charts themselves, again, they're going to be locked to the time frame here. If I wanted to change the global time frame and look at the last 7 days, I can do that, and that'll just basically give me these charts. If we look at the Oracle server, again, pretty much it's going to be the same type of metrics, a list of the schemas that we're monitoring here, and we'll get into those in the next section. So the blue text just represents a hyperlink that'll directly put me into the specific schema. And the last one I'll show is just standard MySQL. And again, this one, you can see here from the throughput that this one's a lot more active than the other ones in our demo environment. But again, whether you're looking at MySQL, Oracle, or Microsoft SQL Server, you're going to basically you're going to get the same type of information here, which is basically the key info, these charts. And again, just for those of you who are not completely familiar with the interface, I can lock the chart to the last 24 hours. That's the main global time frame. And then again, if I wanted to change the time frame here, I can have individual charts locked to a different time frame. So if I wanted to look at the previous, say, 5 days, I can just save this information, and that will give me the last 5 days of metrics. And a lot of the metrics are thresholded, and James will get into that. But again, if I wanted to basically hyperlink and look and see what my open incidents are, I can just click here. And this is going to just open up the incident dashboard in the main web page and give me information about that specific incident. And what we're seeing here are connection rate errors. And with that, I'm going to stop sharing and hand it back over to you briefly there, Isabella.
Thanks, Larry, for taking us through that. So Larry touched on a bit. There is quite a bit of resource monitoring done on these. So there's insights into database resource consumption. The main ones are the storage space, memory, and processor utilization. This key information comes into play a lot with performance optimization to address service impacts due to things like bottlenecks being resource bound, or could help with capacity planning in your environment. Processor utilization, memory usage, and log space stats are gathered on the top level database instances. General space allocation usage stats are gathered on both instances and schemas. And Larry will go through those key resource metrics and then showcase some more resources that could be seen in the various pages for database monitoring.
All righty. Thank you, Isabella. Let me go back to the share here, and I'll bring up bring up the standard database here. Just move this out of the way. So when you're monitoring at the database level, there are two additional dashboards that show up across the favorites link. One is a resources dashboard, and I'm going to pivot over to the Oracle server. And if I go to the resources dashboard here, it's going to basically give me information about my resources. So each one of these schemas is going to provide me with information on the indexes in the used space. And then for database jobs, it'll give you basically a list of all the jobs and whether or not the job is okay. We have this last one here that's in a warning state. And again, the database jobs tab just brings up the jobs in a full web window, and it'll just basically give you a list of the jobs that are running here. Can we go back to the summary tab? I'm going to go to the Microsoft SQL server and in the resources tabs. You'll see when we're connected to a Microsoft SQL server, we get some additional information regarding buffers. If we're not able to collect that information, what you're going to see is a dash here. So for the previous one for Oracle, we don't collect that buffer data, but we do provide you with the used and space allocated, as well as how much memory is allocated for buffer resources. I'll come back to the MySQL server, and again, this one here, we're actually monitoring the production instance of this Entuity server where our demos or our software is running, and you can drill into the schema itself, and that will bring up a dashboard that's specific to the schema. It'll give you some key information about this schema regarding the number of used and unused indexes. Again, if there are any incidents associated with this, and then we're going to provide six additional metrics charts to track things like query time, query rate, space allocation. You can look at the I/O latency and the query latency and the IOPS metrics. These do have you can assign and define thresholds for all of these metrics at the schema level, and they'll be available through a pull-down menu right here at threshold settings. And with that, Isabella, I'm going to hand it back to you.
Thanks, Larry. So Entuity does enable you to set proactive alerts and thresholds for database issues that help you address issues before they become problems affecting your users. There are some default thresholds set on some of the key metrics. Some of those are on connection errors, buffer cache hit ratio, or lock contention rate. Then there's the option to set up custom overrides so the alerts are then tailored to your specific needs. James will be showing these as well as some additional thresholds that can be set through the user-defined threshold feature in Entuity.
Ready? I'll share my next up to you. All right. So as customers are already accustomed to setting thresholds with databases, they are the standard out of the box, already defined thresholds, and they are enabled. So you'll get notifications for those. For the database level, when you're looking at any particular type of database type, you can have thresholds like you were used to. And at the database level here, you'll see those already set enabled. They're predefined. And just like you're normally used to with other things at the global device and component level, same with the databases. So if you need to change the threshold for a particular Oracle, or an instance of a database, you can always do the set override just like you're used to, and make adjustments in there so you're holding on to your thresholds a little bit tighter, that you're not getting any additional noise. You're actually getting alerted on what you're wanting to get alerted on. Now, once you get into the database and you go a little bit deeper, if you want to look in things like into your individual schemas, when you click on those, there are some additional thresholds there. And what when we did our beta test and we discussed this with different DBAs, they were looking at this as they don't so much want to get alerted for it, but if they want to, we can do what we call our user-defined thresholds, which we're used to. So you can actually do some additional metrics there. Where our feedback was that they were just wanting to use that for visual representation, but if needed, you can set user-defined thresholds for databases as well. So I just wanted to make sure that you kept that under the understanding with that as well. And again, as Larry stated about, looking at resources and jobs at the job level, you can also do that as well. I click on a job. There's a threshold setting there to make sure if you want to get alerted on a specific job, that's where you can either disable that or enable it. That's how these are set. They are enabled by default. If you do want to turn them off, you can go in there and do an override and turn those off. And it is the same on no matter which of your databases that you're looking at or database types. If you look at a standard MySQL, it'll have those same thresholds. So it's the same process that Entuity customers are already used to, using the right mouse button click and going into threshold settings and making adjustments as needed. Alrighty, Z, I'll turn it back over to you, Isabella.
Thanks, James. So Entuity provides complete end-to-end visibility and monitoring of your application stack by connecting your database to your entire IT estate with some unified insights into the interoperability between things like databases, applications, servers, and network systems. But the services feature in Entuity allows you to group those key business components as parts to a whole, and then you can view overall health in one pane, which then would allow you to easily see which could be the cause in any service impacts that you're seeing in your environment. I'll hand it over to James to cover services a little bit more in depth and show you what those kind of look like in the product and how they can be used.
Okay. So our longtime customers of Entuity are already accustomed to the concept of a service model, things that make up a given service that IT provides out or business provides to their customers. All along, we've been able to do build services based off of network components, servers, web applications, SurePath, those kind of things. Now, with the addition of the database monitoring, it gives you that full stack visibility into the overall service that you're providing out, including the database now. So and these databases are components that you can add to a given service that you already have. So, now when you're looking at a given application, we now have the entire stack. We have the servers that support it. We have the services that are provided. They're providing the application itself, the network to get to those devices. And then we also have things, looking at web applications, making sure your certificates are available, performance as well. If you have a sure path to get to those, we can add those into that service. And the ability now is adding the database. So now you're looking at the over under database that actually supports that application. So now you have that full stack visibility into those applications, so you know exactly where the problems are now. So you're not, looking at the server when it actually may be a database table is running out of space. Now you get to see that entire stack within the services application within Entuity now, which is an added, really good added benefit to being able to look at the entire application as a whole now. So that's where that database is really being able to add into those components. And if you get as normal, when you're looking at a service, if something is going awry or it's a degraded state, these hyperlinks will always take you straight to those individual components, so you can drill down and look at what's going on with a particular database or a component of your service. So like we talked about, this now you have the full stack of the service that you have the availability to be able to look at, set SLAs, and make sure that you're meeting your goals for your IT organization. Okay, and there's a couple other things that we were wanting to make sure that we talked about is with database monitoring. We do, out of the box, we kind of thinking that you're going to wind up using the root user of your database. However, some customers are not allowed, they're not allowed to do that. The DBAs are not going to allow for you have root access. So we do have the capability, if you use another user to connect to your databases. On the Help Center, the product teams did an outstanding job on documenting the actual additional permissions for each of the database types that you'll need to enable to be able to monitor your databases, as well as another, kind of tips and tricks kind of component is when you install your patch 8, your monitoring databases, please remember that you'll need to merge your projects so you can take advantage of those new database incidents. This happened. Just want to let you know, just make sure that you do that merge so you can take advantage of those. All righty, Isabella, I'll turn it back over to you to go from here.
I think we've covered pretty much all of our main topics and then tips and tricks for the day. Then, John, were there any Q&A questions?
Yeah, we had a few Q&A questions in here. And if you have a question and you haven't entered it yet into the chat, please feel free to do so. Happy to take some time to address those now. David, I see your question here regarding a question for database user expirations and asking whether or not that is going to be on the roadmap. There's a couple of clarifying questions that we want to ask you to determine specifically whether or not that functionality is forthcoming. So we'll follow up with you directly after the webinar. And then I also see, Dwayne, you asked a question here. We only see space allocated. We don't see query or IO performance information. We are using a system equivalent account on MS SQL. Is there another function that they need to use?
I'll take that one, John. It's Larry.
Sure.
Since Dwayne's one of my customers, I'll have him. Yeah, obviously, when we were demoing our Microsoft SQL Server, both the query and IO performance information are showing in our demo. Don't know if it's something in the back-end setup, but this is definitely one where I would raise a support ticket with Park Place Entuity support and to have it looked at. Because I'm not sure. There's definitely detailed instructions, and I know Dwayne followed them on the help center. So yeah, just open up a ticket with support, and then I'll track that as well, and I'll contact them after the webinar.
Excellent, thank you. Well, if there's no other questions, then we'll go ahead and close up here. I'm going to launch another poll. If there's a particular topic that you're interested in seeing as a future topic for one of our Entuity Tech Talks, feel free to leave your response in there now. Could be anything regarding features and functionalities of the tool. How do you utilize Entuity to have a broader impact on your business overall? Happy to consider those and possibly see one featured as our next topic. When we wrap up here later today or early tomorrow, depending on which time zone you're in, you'll be receiving an email that includes a link to this recording. If you would like to watch the webinar or share it with other members of your team, you can feel free to do so that way. Additionally, in that email, there will also be links for you to submit peer reviews. If you haven't yet reviewed Entuity on our peer review platforms, which are G2, a software review website, as well as Gartner Peer Insights, we'd greatly appreciate it if you could take a few minutes and share your Entuity experience so that other users can learn more about Entuity and what features and functionalities you like most about it. We appreciate you giving us the time there. And that takes care of everything on our end. Thank you all again for giving us the time to review database monitoring with you. We appreciate you taking time out of your day to listen in here, and we look forward to seeing you on our next Entuity Tech Talk.